Jesus Christ made the most profound statements about worry that the world has ever heard in Matthew the 6th chapter. Therefore I say unto you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will put on. Isn't life more than food, and the body more than clothing?
Hello guys, Charles Grove with Foraging Truth. Today we found another mushroom that we're going to go over, and of course this one grows on wood, dead wood. You will find it on some living trees, living parasitic, as well as saprophytic on wood that has already fallen to the ground. This mushroom is very easy to identify. This is a very good beginner's mushroom, and I'm going to give you a lot of information on this mushroom and how you can positively identify which mushroom we have here. This is an edible fungus. It's very good for you. It has a lot of medicinal qualities, which we're going to go over. But this is commonly known as Dryad saddle. It's also known as hawkswing or pheasant back. You have the Latin names. The original Latin name was Polyphorus squamosus. Polyphorus meaning it's a polypore. It does not have gills. When we look at the underside, you'll see that. And squamosus refers to these to this feathery appearance or scaly appearance on the top of the cap. The new name that this mushroom that you'll find in the newer field guides is Cereoporus squamosus. And I'm going to go ahead and cut one of these off. This is a little bit larger than what you want to find. You want to find the 1 to 2 inch caps, the smaller ones. And this is because this mushroom gets kind of waxy, cardboardy texture to it towards the center of the stalk, where the stalk meets the cap. But you can cut a certain margin away and leave the rest of it here. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and remove this bigger one. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it off right where the stalk is, and you'll notice the stalks are real tough, real white on the inside when it's fresh. I don't know if you can see that, but Cereoporus, cereopore means honeycomb shaped pores. You'll notice there is no gills. There's a little bit of a ridge on the edge of the margin, and this is the area where the spores are going to fall from. Now if you want to further identify this mushroom, what you can do is take a dark piece of paper and a light piece of paper, set them together, and set this mushroom on top of it. After a few hours, it should drop its spores, and you'll see that they're white in color. Another key identifying feature is you'll notice that the spore, or the honeycomb surface, grows down onto the stalk, and you'll see that as it goes down. The stalks are usually 1 to 2 inches growing from the log, and they're usually really meaty and really tough. Again, when you're harvesting a mushroom that you know, of course, is Polyphorus squamosus or Cereoporus squamosus or pheasant back, you are probably just going to take the outer 1 inch or so off of this margin, and you'll put that in your mushroom bag. Take that home and saute it up. Now let's go over some more key identifying features so you can positively identify this mushroom. This mushroom has the scaly surface on the top. You can tell that that looks kind of like feathers. And it is growing on dead wood, and we are in the months of April, May, and June, the beginning of summer, the end of spring. That's when this mushroom likes to come out. You'll also find it during the year, sometimes in summer, not as much, and into fall once in a while. It kind of drops off. So another key identifying feature to this mushroom, which makes this a great beginner's mushroom, is when you smell this mushroom, you're not going to smell mushroom. You're going to smell cucumber or watermelon rind. And the reason that you're going to smell that is this mushroom puts that smell off. You can smell it almost when I'm sitting here next to it. That is a key identifying feature. You know you have the right mushroom as long as you put all these other things I'm teaching you into play. So melony, cucumber, watermelon rind, that is the key. We know we have Polyphorus squamosus, or Cereoporus squamosus, or hawkswing, pheasant back, Dryad saddle. And what this mushroom is actually doing to this log is it's breaking down the lignin in this log. In some degree the cellulose and also the hemicellulose. It is classified as a white rot fungus. And while I'm telling you more about this mushroom, I'm going to go ahead and harvest some of these. I'm not going to take them all off the log. There's a lot. There's some up this way, and there's a few down that way. And this is one of my spots. I know this mushroom comes out on this log. So I'm going to cut the rest of these away, and I'll show you what it looks like, this nub that comes out of the log. Now you can see where this came out. It's attached to this log really well. And I'm going to pick this up so we can show you. Now, when the stalk first comes out, it's a nice cream color, like you're going to see where I cut it. But as it ages, it's going to get darker at the base. That's another key feature. And you can see it on the back of this one. This is a very good mushroom to learn. This is how you kind of get into mushroom hunting. A mushroom like this is very easy to identify. It is an awesome time to be out in the woods, out in the Appalachians. And this is one of my favorite mushrooms to harvest because of how easy it is to identify. And my children bring this mushroom home. And of course I check everything they bring home because you don't want to mess around with mushrooms. Now there is this ongoing fear about harvesting wild mushrooms. I understand it to a degree, but to another degree I say, get the knowledge you need. Go out with somebody from your area that knows mushrooms. You probably know somebody that goes out in the woods and does foraging. And foraging is a great way to connect to the wild. I mean, it takes you right out in the woods. You're eating from the woods, which is a very beneficial thing. And now let's go over some of these key benefits that this mushroom has. This mushroom has a lot of very medicinal benefits. One of them is it helps your body to regulate the immune system. It's called immunomodulatory. So if it's too high, it brings it down. If it's too low, it brings it up. This is a really good thing that maybe some people could use when they're going through chemotherapy and it brings your immune system down, or you have a weak immune system. May be able to help you bring it back up. If your immune system's going crazy, like with allergies and you know your body's fighting a lot of different things, and your immune system's just skyrocketing, it can help bring that back down. And that is an amazing thing in itself. But this mushroom also has lectin in it. And lectin is a carbohydrate binding protein. And what that helps you to do is it actually helps your body with programmed cell death. Okay, so now we're going to sum up a little bit. So, what does this mushroom do for you? This mushroom actually has antioxidant properties. It has immunomodulatory properties. It has the lectin, you know, the anti-cancer carbohydrate binding protein. It is very easy to identify. It has the honeycomb shaped pore surface that extends onto the stalk. It smells like cucumber or watermelon rind when you cut it. It has the feathery appearance on the top of the cap. It grows on dead or living trees. Again, saprophytic on the dead trees laying down, parasitic on the standing trees. It likes, the tree I mostly find this on is dead and dying elm. In its name, it actually has these key features, so you can actually remember them. If you remember the names, you can remember what it is talking about in the name. And the Latin names, of course, Polyphorus squamosus, which means polypore squamosus, the scaly feathery appearance of the cap, or the Cereoporus squamosus, the shape of the pore surface, which would be honeycomb, Cera, and squamosus, again, the feathery shape on the cap. So this is Foraging Truth's message on Dryad saddle, or pheasant back, hawkswing, Cereoporus squamosus, Polyphorus squamosus. I hope you found this video very informative. Again, make sure you find somebody out there to take you on a walk. Maybe someday Foraging Truth will be able to do walks in your area to teach some of these mushrooms and the plants and everything else we're going to be getting into. You know, these wild medicines and wild food for your body, and make you more self-reliant. Now let's look at self-reliance. When you become self-reliant and you have your food at your hands, and you know when your food comes out and when to find your food out in the woods, you're actually more dependent on God. Because it's God's creation is the reason why we can come out and find these things. They were already provided for us. Now, if you go into creation and you read Genesis, you know, God created everything in the beginning and it was good. But man fell. So, you know, he imposed death and decay. Is that when mushrooms came out? I believe it is. They might have been lying dormant, and when that was imposed upon us because of our fall, then you might have had these things pop out then. But let's look at that. With being cursed, God provides us food and medicine. It's kind of like when you tell your children you're not supposed to do that, or don't hit your brother or sister, or you're correcting them, and then you have to go into maybe a punishment level, and you don't want to punish your kids. You wish your kids would just listen to you and do what you say to do. And with that, you're showing love. You love your children. Any reasonable person loves their children. So when you look at God and how much he loves us, be reminded when you look at this mushroom. This mushroom brings so many medicinal qualities from decay. And if this mushroom didn't exist, if these white rot and brown rot fungus didn't exist, we would have piles of wood. We wouldn't be able to traverse our forests. So look at all the benefits to what has been given because of what has been done. And always remember God when you're out foraging. We have our pheasant back, or hawkswing, or do you remember all the names? There's a million of them. We can start processing these. I'm going to show you some different ways, but first I usually like to start with some cold salt water. Just going to put some salt in here, and all that does is encourages any hitchhikers, bugs, any larva that was starting, or any of that kind of stuff, to exit the mushroom when they feel that salt hit them. And of course to clean the dirt off, because things do get stuck in these pores under the underside, and you want to get most of the dirt off. You know, you want to start off with a clean specimen. So once I do that, I personally, because the stalk is so woody, I just slice that away. And you want to use a sharp knife, but as you can see, I mean, this is a pretty tough substance. It is nice and white. What you can do is you can use this for a soup stock later. You can dry them and use them for soup stock. But I usually start by just trimming the outside margin off. That's usually the best part. And as you can see, this knife is pretty sharp. So once it starts getting tougher to cut, I go ahead and just leave it at that, and usually use the rest for soup stock. Just simply cut the other stuff up and put it in your separate pile. And I do this with each mushroom. Clean the underside, clean where it came off, clean the cap off. Any bruised areas, you want to slice those off. You don't want to really eat stuff, you know, that's bruised up. It can upset your stomach. Boy, that's just a pretty pattern. Now with these smaller ones, you can cut the whole thing up. It's all pretty good. As you can see, it cuts really easy. With the larger ones, you'll get less. My daughter wanted me to harvest that massive one there, but I figured it was in good shape when I looked at the pore surface. So we could use that for soup stock or just making a broth. These also have those beta glucans that we were talking about. So it's also good. You can make tea from some of this stuff. Most wild mushrooms, not all of them, but most of them do have beta glucans in them. Some people don't appreciate the pore surface as well, and as you can see, you can basically skin that right off if you like. Me, I use most everything I possibly can use. You know, once you get these things out of the woods, take the time and effort of collecting them, why not use what you have? As you can see, that edge is very soft. That's the outer margin, the one that most people like to eat. If you want to take the pore surface off, you can simply shave it directly off, just like that. If you don't appreciate the pore surface as much, just showing you alternate ways of preparing these. As you can see, that nice white fleshy material underneath. Now this one's still really soft. It's probably going to get a lot bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this in with my my stuff for making dinner tonight. Now, as you can see, you know, the difference between having the pore surface and not having the pore surface on there. So I'll throw that into my drying stuff. So that does have a bruised area in it. So I'm going to carve that out, throw that in my garbage, my scraps, which I don't have very much, and you can tell in that. Because I'm pretty picky on what I do harvest, and I like to use everything I harvest. You know, I don't like to be wasteful. Nobody should be wasteful. You never know what's going to happen down the road, and you always want to learn how to preserve what you have. You know. So that you can go back and enjoy these when they're no longer fruiting anymore, or when you're not able to find them as easily as you can find them right now. I'm going to keep all that too, all really soft. As you can see, my water's actually getting kind of tingy. There's a good bit of dust and dirt on things that, you know, are out in the woods, which is, I think, really good for your immune system as well. You know, you can be, I think, at some point too clean. And as you can tell with me cutting this one's a lot more of the woody, corky. You can hear the knife fighting. So, I'll come in this way. See, this is the kind of one you don't want to put in the frying pan. Someone's gonna have a bad day eating this. See how woody that is? I'm not going to use that. Now what I am going to use this one for is soup stock, and I'm going to cut the outer edge of these ones away. Maybe not as far as that last one, but I'm going to put that in my frying stack, and this stuff in my soup stock stack. I just go by feel with these, with this type of mushroom. This, oh, that was definitely going in there. I just go by feel with when I'm cutting up dried saddle. If it's really tough to the knife, I throw it in my soup stock. If it's bruised, I throw it out. You know, you still get a really good amount of mushroom when you do that. This being as woody as it is, I'm probably just gonna throw that out too. We have this one little guy left. Cut the outer margin off. And then I'm going to go ahead and slice this up. Again, I had a feeling this one was going to be really corky or woody, just by the feel of it. So again, I have a lot of material for soup stock, and I have a lot of material to fry up, including this stuff right here. Now this larger mushroom, this is more for more to show you how big some of these things get. And you find these, I mean, that's just massive. But this shows you the pores extending down on the stalk and how dark it gets, and just extremely heavy they get. I mean, they're a massive mushroom. They get really big. So these are the size you want for preparation. But this, most of the time when I find them like this, they're real buggy, real woody. But this guy doesn't seem to be too bad for how big he is. You can definitely see that porous surface I was telling you about. It's pretty dirty because it went through a long trek in the woods with me after my daughter found it. But we got some good pictures. They have some good memories. They know what dried saddle is and how neat it is. And I can just smell that aroma of melon or cucumber. It's just amazing. As you can see, I'm taking off the very, very outer edge. Take it up to there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to see if it has any bugs or any things starting in it, because I don't prefer eating bugs. I mean, I guess I would if I needed to, but I really don't need to. So the Lord has provided me plenty to eat with some of the knowledge that He's given me. And it's unique how I gained this knowledge. I actually gained this knowledge because I saw the world turning a direction that I never thought, especially America, turning towards violence, and just seems like nothing's ever getting better. It seems to be getting worse, and I shouldn't be surprised. Jesus told us that was going to happen. So I started teaching myself these things, and then all of a sudden, one day while I was praying, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Now go teach everybody what you know. And it all came together. Not only do I know about wild edibles, but I know a lot from just being in the Army, and some of the MOSs I had on warfare, battlefield circulation, convoy security, having people rely on you, I mean, for every little detail. And this is so big and dirty, I'm probably going to set this off to the side here and use it. Now, you can also use those big ones for spores. If you know where there's elm logs and none of the dried saddle is growing, well, by all means, take those out, set them pore side down on there, and the spores will fall out on the log, and hopefully the next season you'll have dried saddle. So, again, this is my garbage pile, this is my soup stock, and this is my fry up for dinner tonight when we do hamburgers. I'm going to throw some of this on the hamburgers. Now, when you're preparing dried saddle, which I'm not going to do that right now, when I prepare this, I use butter, salt, and pepper. I make my skillet medium temperature, because if you make it really hot, this is a drier mushroom, kind of like a shiitake. so you'll dry the mushroom out. The shiitake's kind of, you know, they can handle that high heat. This one really can't. So what you want to do is you want to cook that at a medium temperature. Get your pan to a medium temperature. Make sure you're not burning your butter. Throw this in with it. Make sure it's nice and clean. Throw it in there. Cook it thoroughly. You never eat wild mushrooms raw. You always eat them cooked. Some mushrooms, like the acclaimed morel mushroom, has a chemical in it. I don't know the name offhand. I'd have to look it up. But the chemical actually breaks down with heat. But the chemical causes a severe upset stomach. And no matter how good that mushroom tastes, if you get a severely upset stomach afterward, you're never going to want to eat it again. So you properly cook this mushroom the whole way through. And what I tend to do is I throw a little bit of water in the pan with it. You know, being careful, you know, you're using hot grease. So put a little bit of water in the pan while you're cooking it. Just keep the mushroom moist. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. You can throw that on a salad after you're done cooking it. You can throw it on hamburgers. You can throw it on whatever you use mushrooms on. So, Charles Grove with Foraging Truth. I hope this helps you out. Have a good day.